Do you think any of your kids are going to ask anyone in their class to be their Valentine?
Unfortunately, yes. Yep. I hear all the time about Kai, my son. He loves this girl named Melissa. And Trinity, yeah, she has her Valentine as well picked out. So yes,
Okay.
it's happening.
Well, I mean, I think that the Valentine's Day, request is a great parallel for closing sales. So if you don't ask, you'll never know, right? Just like closing, if you don't ask for the business, you'll never know. And I thought about it coming up to this, and Valentine's Day is in February. We start school in September and August, depending on where you are in the country. At this point, the kids know each other, right? So all we're doing now is asking someone to be our Valentine, and we've had the entire school year to get to know each other, and people kind of know if they want to be your Valentine or not. And I think that's a great parallel for the sales call. We don't want to start closing the deal. Now, we don't want to start in September and start closing in February. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But we know that the time spent with people and getting warmed up is really where people are making their decisions. And then at that point, how we behave, how we act, how we interact in the meantime is really what matters. And then it's just a matter of asking somebody to be our Valentine, or it's a matter of asking for the business. So I thought it was a great parallel as we jump into this from a sales standpoint. So whether that's a single call that lasts, 18 minutes and we're asking for the business, or it's a courtship of, multiple outreaches and multiple meetings and explaining exactly what we do and understanding what matters to the other person. At some point, we have to ask for the business, which is really what closing is all about. And I want to share with you guys today our view on how to close every closable deal. So I'm a big believer that, not every deal is closable or should be closable. They may or may not be a good fit for you. The property may or may not be a good fit for you. But when you know you want the business, I believe that if you govern the call correctly, you should be able to close every single one of those deals. And I think that the closing process, Kristen, can actually be quite effortless and quite fun and easy. And so that's really what I want to focus on today and share with you guys. So, Kristen, what do you think? Like, this is my question. What's the ideal close to any sale? Like, what would be the perfect scenario that would just make the customer say yes to us?
If we are fulfilling and hitting in on all of their motivations, we're solving any pain points that we have, and we're elevating them towards their goals. Did I get it right?
You're right there. These are all great things. I would say the ultimate sale, like what I've experienced and you've probably experienced, and I'm just putting a different language around it, is just this logical self-conclusion by the prospect that you're right for me and this is a good fit, right? That's really what we want to happen is, you know what, like this is so obvious to me, Kristen, take my money. Let's just do this thing because it's so perfect. And that's really what we want to happen when we're closing the deal. We don't want to have to do all that sales judo and arm wrestling and trying to convince them to take a leap of faith. Now, that's not always possible, and that's absolutely okay. But this is the best outcome. The best case scenario is just this logical self-conclusion. And so if we can govern the sales call in a way, if we can use the whole school year before Valentine's Day to make ourselves as attractive as possible and really lead, handle all the self-doubt, all the concern, then they're just going to have to say yes. And that's really what we're trying to do. And so to really drive this home, imagine if this is how you were closing your deals, if you were using language like this. So what if these were the closing phrases that brought in the new clients for you? So what if you just basically said, Kristen, is there any reason you wouldn't want us managing your properties? It's pretty light, right? It's pretty easy. If I haven't done the work right, your answer to that question might be a little off-putting. And I maybe don't want to ask that question if I haven't done the right work. But if I've done the right work and I asked you this and you said, you know what, there's just no reason. Let's just do this. Like that is a solid close, right? And that's the kind of closing we want you guys to be doing so that you love the process. Another closing phrase you might use if you've done your work right is, are you ready to join the Mango Tree family? If you've really sold the culture and the product of what you sell, why not just ask them if they want to select into your tribe? That I think is a really great way to invite somebody to do business with you. Third, are you ready to upgrade your management experience? If we're talking to someone and all they're doing is complaining about their current managers and how us property managers just take all the money and don't do anything, and we've made a logical case, why wouldn't we want to ask them, are you just ready to upgrade your management experience? This is the kind of closing I want you guys to be doing. Number 4, is there anything else you were looking for in a property manager that we haven't covered today? That's the natural conclusion of a fantastic sales call. If you can really answer all their questions, you can really create a great sales experience for them. Why not? I call this the permission to close statement. I'm basically saying, is there anything else you're looking for in a property manager that we haven't covered? Well, they either have to tell us what else they want to know, or they have to say no, in which case it's time to close, right? And it's time to, sign on the dotted line and move forward. So these can be some great closing phrases that you can use, assuming that we design the process the right way. And last but not least is if somebody's got a real problem, you've got a tenant that's not paying, they've got a property manager that's got them in some trouble, why not ask them if they're ready to let you guys are problem solvers. Don't ever forget that. Why not just ask them if they're ready to let you take this problem off of their hands? So if they're really calling for a specific pain point, just let them know that you are just basically one yes away from taking over this problem for them. These are effortless closes that work really well. And the rest of this webinar is all about what needs to happen so that you can confidently use one of these statements and actually get a yes and close the deal. So what we're doing here, Kristen, is we're beginning with the end in mind. So if, this is the sales process at its rawest form, your sales process is turning a total stranger into a new customer. And we all know there's a process for that, and it ends with them saying yes and deciding to hire you. So if that's the case, and we know that our ultimate idea, our ultimate goal for a sales call is to close the business, why wouldn't we orchestrate and design and conspire to have a sales process that allows a close that is the least amount of friction, rather than that being the heartbeat raising moment where we have to go out on a limb and we have to ask for the business? Why not manage the sales call in a way where asking for the business is so natural that it's actually the easiest part of the call? That's what we want to show you guys how to do today. So Kristen, we've got the chat up. We're going good. We got questions. We're going to practice a little bit. Here's what we want to cover today. Here's our agenda. So 1, I just want to give you guys a review, an outline of an effective sales call. This is something we teach all the time here. You guys have seen it before. If you're a client of RentScale, if you're not, it's very simple. It'll take me just a couple seconds to go over. So what does an effective sales call look like for you and for the client? Number 2, what is that pre-checklist that we need to be working towards before we start going into the close? So I'm definitely not the Alec Baldwin of Glengarry Glen Ross, always be closing. I'm actually the opposite. I'm always be setting up for the close. So I don't think we should get on a call and start asking for the business until we're ready. And I want to give you guys a really specific format and formula, and it's in the workbook. You guys will have it. And I want to train you guys to think the way I think and have that subconscious checklist going on in your mind. And you say, click, now's the time to close. All of the dots are aligned and it's time to move forward into the close. So that is something we're going to cover very briefly today. Number 3, I want to show you the closing framework that I use and is very natural to me and that we use here at RentScale, and that I've been teaching the RentScale team. And I want to give you guys a really simple acronym, just closer, so you guys know what that is. And Kristen and I are going to actually practice some of these things so we can actually go through this and you guys can see what that would look like. And then last but not least, I just want to talk about gaining commitment. That is what closing is all about. Closing is not necessarily getting the signature and fulfilling the deal. Sometimes closing is just simply gaining commitment to keep the process moving forward, to nullify the competitors, and to make sure that you're getting deeper and deeper into a relationship with the prospect. So that's my agenda for today. Any questions that we need to go over, Kristen? Are we good?
No, I was just commenting on the acronym. Instead of ABC, it's ABSUFTC.
Always be setting up for the close?
Yes.
Yes. That is going to be a hard one to remember, but I think the concept is fairly simple, right?
Yes.
So I love it. So always be setting up for the close. So let's talk about, Kristen, and you and I are going to practice a little bit. Let's talk about what a high level sales process looks like. So if Kristen calls in and she's interested in, she's expressed some kind of interest in doing business with me, or I've reached out to Kristen and I've said some things that have opened her mind to maybe having a conversation with me about working with us together. This is the high level outline. We've been teaching this for years. This is the trusted advisor sales process. Number one, we've got to gain status alignment. So we're going to talk about that very briefly. It's above the scope of this conversation. So a lot of you guys on this call that we've trained has said, you know, I feel a little intimidated. I don't even own my own property. I've never been a real estate investor, and I'm selling to somebody who's been a real estate investor for years. And they have multiple properties, and you feel intimidated because you feel like you have no authority. Feel like you can't talk to them and advise them because you feel like they have more experience than you. Status alignment is critical in sales. If the prospect doesn't feel like they're speaking to a peer, or better yet, a trusted advisor, then they're not going to be honest and they're not going to actually tell you everything you need to know. So it's so important that you gain the trust up front. And my reminder to you guys, because you heard me say this before, you don't have to be a better real estate investor than your client. You don't have to have more experience than your client. I know that if you're in this portfolio of clients of ours, you are a better property manager than your customer is. And so don't dilute yourself or convince yourself that you've got to be a better property manager to give solid advice to a prospect. You are part of a team. You are part of a community. You have spent way many more years. Your company has spent more years. You have way more systems. You know what it takes to compliantly and successfully manage a property. And that's the only status that you need to lean into to be able to do the right discovery work. And that's why status alignment is so important, because, you know, I don't know if you've ever read this before, but people talk all the time, ask your customer what keeps them up at night. You know, somebody called me up and they're like, hey, Mr. Business Owner, what keeps you up at night? And be like, you know, go away. Like, what gives you even the right to like ask me that question? Like, why would I even waste my time to try to share that with you? Because you haven't gained my trust yet. And so we cannot do effective discovery until we've aligned ourselves and proven ourselves as a significant status equal with our prospects. And so that's why if you look at your playbook, we built a playbook for your RentScale, and you have this, you know, very specific, unique selling proposition. And you can say something like, Kristen, I'm so glad you called us. Just so you know, we're the South Florida real estate investors' best kept secret here at Mango Tree Property Management. We help over 350 investors just like you manage their properties, sleep better at night, and expand their portfolio. And here are the ways we do that. There's a reason why we try to train you to speak so confidently about your unique selling proposition, because it is a shortcut to status alignment. It's super important. If you can say that, you know, confidently and succinctly, then you can basically skip the status alignment point and they say, okay, I know I'm talking to someone that knows exactly what they're doing. Let's get into this. They can potentially help me solve my problem. I'm ready to be honest, I'm ready to be open, and I'm ready to share my information with them. And that's what we want to do next. We want to get into discovery, and we want to extract as much information as we can about the prospects so that we know how to tailor and customize our sales presentation. And then we know how to close. So if we do the discovery right up front, it's going to set up the rest of the dominoes later in the process. Once we know exactly what matters to them and what they're trying to do and what they've tried before, we can advise them and we can make a recommendation on what we can do for them. So you might have multiple services, you might have multiple pricing. Rather than walk them through every single one, if we do our job right and we discover what they need, we can simply make a recommendation to them. We can advise them on how they could best work with us here at Mango Tree Property Management. And at that point, we can close, which is commitment. We can ask for a commitment. So that's it, guys. It's easy to say, hard to do. But if you're not selling this way and you're showing up and you're just explaining your services, then you're making a mistake. Because at the end of the day, I'll come back to that real fast. Oh, actually, sorry. So I skipped ahead. I'll share this later. So there's a slide that I'll share later is that selling services is much more about helping the client make decisions than it is about explaining your service and how it works. And the default for us is be like, let me tell you everything I know about my service. That's not consulting. And we are doing consultative sales. And that's why it's so important. We can't close if we don't have the right information from the prospect that we need. So, Kristen, let's do a little discovery together. Is that okay? You want to be a prospect? I'll be the salesperson. Maybe we can bring up somebody like Taylor or somebody else to give us their feedback on how we do.
Yes, as long as you're okay, Jeremy, with me throwing you for some loops. I mean, I'm just going to throw some random objections out there and just want you to know that as long as that's okay, then we'll practice.
Yeah, we could crash and burn really poorly here, but let's just give it a shot.
All right. So Taylor, you are about to have permission to be allowed to talk. That's what it says on here. So Taylor, it says allowed to talk. Now you have the permission to talk, Taylor.
Nobody put Taylor in a corner.
How are you guys?
Oh,
good to see you, Taylor. All right, so I'll be the salesperson at Mango Tree Property Management. Kristen is going to be the prospect, and I'm just going to try to do a light discovery phase that would set up for a close. And I may fast forward some things. Like if she asks me a question, I think it's going to take me like 8 minutes to explain it. I may jump in and be like, fast forward X, Y, and Z. And then Taylor, I just want to get your feedback on how you felt about the process and what you would do to close. Make sense?
Perfect.
And Jeremy, is it okay if I have an alter ego in this? I won't be Kristen. Can I be somebody else?
I think you should be. I would like you to go into full character.
Okay. All right. My name will be Sasha.
I like it. Are you Russian?
Sasha Jones. No, just Sasha Jones.
Just Sasha. Okay, Sasha Jones. I like it. All right. Thanks for calling today, Sasha. How can I help you?
So, thank you so much for taking my call. First of all, I'm looking to see how your company handles maintenance.
Sasha, so as I've already learned on this call, you've let me know you have a couple properties you're self-managing, fast forwarding here, so we don't have to go through it all. I can imagine as a self-manager, maintenance is, probably the biggest overhead you deal with, especially here in South Florida. If you're anything like us, getting a professional vendor to actually show up on time and do everything they need to do in South Florida can be really difficult. So I'd love to explain how we do this. So we have an amazing vendor network. There's 3 things you should keep in mind about how we handle maintenance, Sasha. Number 1, we have a proven vendor network. We've been working with many of these people for years. And so we know that they'll show up on time. We give them a lot of work, and we know that they want to win our business. Number 2, we're going to manage everything for you, Sasha. So I don't know, no more like showing up from a window from 12 to 4 p.m., hoping that the plumber shows up, calling them multiple times, finding out they have the wrong address, they couldn't get in the gate, they couldn't see the property. We're going to manage all that. And we're actually going to send the tenant a survey making sure that the work was done to their satisfaction. And we're going to hold that vendor accountable. And the third thing you should know is that because we give these vendors so much work, we can actually save you money. There's a good chance that they are doing the work for us at a lower rate than they are for you, because we're giving them so much volume and we're professional about it and they know exactly what our expectations are. So I think we can actually save you a lot of money by handling all your maintenance for you. Does that help?
Absolutely. So what you're saying is the reason you're able to do it so quickly is because you have an extensive network of people. And I really feel like maybe that's what I've been missing in my managing of these properties, because when the tenants call, I have to drop everything. I need to go call 10 people, and they're telling me it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks for me to have somebody come out. And 6 to 8 weeks for an HVAC system in the middle of summer here in Florida, that's an unlivable condition. You just can't have somebody be that long without an air conditioner.
Well, you're absolutely right, Sasha. And we have a whole playbook, and I don't want to bore you, and I don't even know the whole playbook myself, but we have certain conditions for our vendors based on the severity of the work. So if it's something that's actually a living condition or a safety issue for the tenant, then we have certain criteria that the vendors know that they have to respond in. If it's something that's a little bit more like a convenience, or fixing a creaky door or something like that, we may try to get the tenant to troubleshoot it itself. But when it comes to those things, we definitely cannot risk you as a client of ours being exposed to a living condition issue and not responding, because then the tenant won't renew. Then they might try to sue you. They might try to do all these things. So that's definitely one of the opportunities or the benefits of working with a professional manager like Mango Tree. So I'm curious, Sasha, why have you been self-managing? What is it about hiring a professional property management that has turned you off up until this point?
Well, because honestly, I don't really feel like there's anybody who could do it as well as me. Because since it is my property, I used to live in one of them. I know it very well. And I think that having that close relationship with the tenants has been a benefit for me, because since they know me so well, they can't not pay me rent because they know who I am. So, I just don't feel like anybody could do it quite as well as I can.
Well, that's a great point, Sasha. I mean, we're managing over 300 properties. We probably don't manage all 300 properties as good as you manage your 2 properties. And that's a good point, right? We're talking macro versus micro at that point. But clearly you've reached out. So, I'm just curious, what is it about self-managing that's not working, or why are you considering working with a professional manager like us?
So it really was that maintenance piece that was a big issue for me, because it's really taking me a lot of time. It's taking a lot of time for me to do that. I get a call, I have to drop everything. I need to move forward, trying to find people to come out to the property. So that's really where I've been feeling stuck, is just the amount of time that it's taking me to find maintenance is just kind of a struggle. So that's why I was curious from you how you guys do it. So maybe I could even just duplicate your process within my own portfolio.
That's a great question, Sasha. I mean, welcome to South Florida. Vendors are hard to find. They're unreliable, and they often don't do exactly what they say they're going to do. So one thing that we can share with you is our processes, although I think it's going to be hard to duplicate because we spend a lot of money on software like Property Meld and our processes. We have multiple people following up. But I just don't think you can duplicate the allegiance and the alliance that we have with our vendors and how much work we give them. And so that would be one of the ways that would be a no-brainer reason for you to sign on with somebody like a Mango Tree Property Management, because you'd get access to better vendors, better processes. They get the volume. It's kind of like buying a Costco membership, right? You get buying power and economies of scale. And that's what we'd be giving you. And that's why we think our service pays for itself, Sasha. So having said that, I mean, is there any pain point or pressure? Is there any reason why continuing to maintain these properties yourself may or may not be working for you?
It really, the biggest thing to me is just my time. Is just my time in spending on managing the properties, doing the maintenance, and then I'm missing out on other things that I can be doing because I'm spending time managing these properties. So that's really, it's time and missed opportunity is really my pain and what I'm struggling with and what I'm trying to solve.
What kind of opportunities are you missing? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, last week I found an ideal property that I wanted to purchase, and I was supposed to go and look at it. and I couldn't because my tenants called and they needed me to go and unclog their sink, which is something that I'll just do on my own. I don't need to call somebody to do that. I know how to do that. And so because I had to go unclog their sink, I missed out on viewing the property, couldn't put in my offer, and then I didn't get the property.
Interesting. Yeah, things do move fast here in South Florida with properties. This inventory is hard, especially if they're good rental deals. It's funny that you bring that up, Sasha, because I was thinking in myself, the fact that you own 2 properties, you clearly are a committed real estate investor. This isn't just something you seem to be doing because you inherited a property on accident. Are you trying to grow your property? Like, what's holding you back, essentially?
I would say definitely my time. It's my time that is holding me back from doing it. And just being able to go out and find my deals, because I can't predict when my tenants are going to need me to unclog their sink.
Yes. All right. Well, this is very telling. So, Sasha, if you didn't have to manage the properties and you didn't have to do all the maintenance work, how many properties do you want to own?
I mean, ideally, I would be on track by the end of 2022 to be at 8 properties, and then looking to hopefully, double that over the next few years, like double each year over the next 5 years.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pause it there, Sasha. You did a great job. Taylor, what did you hear? What did you take away from that?
All right. So Jeremy did a really great job of summarizing and reiterating her needs, acknowledging what she previously said versus just going straight into a script. Especially when you were trying to key in on her pain points, and when you were following up with your response, you weren't just saying the feature, like we use property miles, but also the benefit and outcome that provides her as the landlord. And then the entire conversation was just that, a conversation. You were going back and forth. There was good questions, good rhetoric. It wasn't just selling service. And then at the very end saying, does this sound like a good fit? You continually tried to ask her more questions, kind of pry where she was coming from. Throughout the entire call, she revealed even more pain points and stuff for you to cue in on. And then at the end, when you were closing or about to close, you reiterated her pain points, listing what you had first discovered and then what she had further revealed, to summarize at the end.
Great, Taylor. I think we called on the right volunteer. Thank you very much. Stick around. We're going to do a little bit more practice. We want you to give us more feedback. One thing that I really want to illustrate that I was doing is I never left discovery. That entire portion, I was resisting the temptation to start making recommendations and start advising Sasha. I almost said Kristen. I continued to linger in discovery, and don't get me wrong, like I tried to add value and I tried to say things as I was in discovery. Sorry, I've gotten my slides all a mess here, but I maintained discipline to really get discovery because I didn't have the intel that I needed yet to start advising in a way where I knew that I could counter any objections that Sasha was going to have. And so we all know this. We get on the call. Sasha was actually quite polite. She just said, I want to know about your maintenance process. She was even very honest with us. And she shared that I just may want to take your maintenance process for myself. I would love it if all of our prospects were that honest, right? But that is an exact parallel or a synonym to, tell me about your fees and tell me what you do and how do you find a tenant? And she was asking me and I answered the question. I didn't brush it off. I said, okay, let me tell you a little bit. And then when I was done and I felt like I had given her satisfactory information, I moved into what is in everybody's playbook that you guys know we talk about all the time, our cornerstone question. Can you tell me about the property and why you're considering working with a professional manager? Now, I didn't have to use the about the property because Sasha told me she had 2 properties, and I knew that it was like not worth getting into details. So I said, okay, can you tell me why you're considering with a professional manager? And so that is what got her to open up and talk about the issue she had. And I didn't learn what I needed to learn with one question. I learned enough and I gained enough trust to ask another question and ask another question. And eventually I learned that she missed out on a property because she was too busy managing a simple tenant issue. And properties in South Florida are very hard to come by, especially good rental properties. So that's why we have to ask these questions. And so what's most important is, what are we listening for, right? If I'm gonna ask Sasha questions, like, I need to know what I'm listening for. I can't just ask questions, although asking questions builds trust and it builds rapport. But I need to know what I'm listening for, because that was what was shaping the next question. So I had a little tiny bit of intel in what Sasha was going to tell me, but Kristen, we were just totally, that was all very raw. Like, I didn't know what she was going to say. I didn't know what she was going to respond with, but I knew the game plan. I knew what I was listening for. And so I can't begin to advise. I cannot leave the discovery phase until I know what Sasha's desired outcome is. This is what it's all about, right? We need to know what the prospect's desired outcome is. You guys are so in love, infatuated with your slide presentations and your services and your products, and it's causing you not to understand what the prospect's trying to do, then I guarantee you that it's holding you back from closing. And your desired outcome is really going to fall into two categories. There's just basically two things the client's trying to do. They're trying to either A, solve a problem, maybe got a problem tenant, their property manager totally sucks, they're self-managing and they can't figure this thing out. They've got some fines, some issues, they feel like it's overwhelming, or you're just looking for a better future. I've been managing for years and I'm tired of doing it, or I'm thinking about renting my property out and I don't know where to start. And I'd like to be able to do that. I'd like to start building a portfolio. Perhaps I'm trying to build generational wealth. I'm trying to actually create a portfolio and leave a legacy for my kids or my grandkids. Everybody is going to close based on A or B. Are they trying to solve a problem? Are they looking for a better future? And if we don't spend enough time asking the right questions and having the patience to learn, then anything we tell them is going to be cosmetic and potentially not what they need to even be having us discuss. Could be totally out of bounds. So selling services is way more about helping people solve problems. This was the slide I tried to skip to earlier. Selling services is way more about helping people solve problems than it is explaining how your products work. So we need to know how our products work. Don't get me wrong. We have very sophisticated prospects. We cannot overlook it, but we need to tell them what they need to hear, nothing more, nothing less, right? That's really what closing is all about. So Sasha and I had a great conversation. I stopped it because I was ready to close. And that's because I knew that I had all three items checked off on what I need to start closing. Number one, I need to work with a prospect. I need to know what they're trying to do. I need to know what the destination is. So Sasha's destination in my mind, Kristen, I'd love your feedback on this, is I want to grow my portfolio. And I feel like I can't grow my portfolio while I work on my own, but I'm also conflicted because I do everything so well, and I'm afraid you're going to do everything half as good as I'm going to do it. Is that a fair assessment of your destination?
Yes.
Anything to add to that? Or was that it?
Nope, that sums it up.
Okay. So I got Sasha to kind of admit they have a problem we can help them solve. And I basically asked it in a very interesting way where I said, okay, so it sounds like you have two properties. Sounds like you're a serious investor. Why don't you have more properties? Why aren't you managing more? And she said, well, ideally I'd have 8 properties by, when was it? I forgot.
By the end of the year. By the end of the year.
Yeah. So I can't start closing until I can get my prospect. I shouldn't start closing until I can get my prospect to admit the destination that they're trying to go to. Then, and again, I fast forwarded, I would have walked her through how we would have helped her do that. I would have shared stories about other clients of ours that came on with a single property and then they did more. And again, we can't do a whole, 2-hour call like on this 90-minute webinar. So I would have shared the travel plan. So here's what we'll do. So we'll take it on. This is what we'll do. I would explain, kind of the high level pricing, what it was. It's the travel plan to get to the destination that she's going to. I can tell her that other investors of ours are selling their properties And, we may even talk about pocket listings, and we may be able to bring her other properties. We can help her evaluate properties. But at the end of the day, she would be freed up to go out there and build that portfolio because we're handling everything for her. And then I would just make sure I would check in before I start to close. I'd say, does that make sense, right? I would get some acknowledgement from Sasha that they agree, that they understand the solution. I think that's really important because too many people say, oh, I told them X, Y, and Z. Now I'm ready to start closing. So I always want to check in. Do we know where they're trying to go? Have we explained to them how to get there? And have we checked in with them? Have we made sure that this makes sense to them? Now it's time to close. That's your checklist, guys. That's in the document that I shared with you guys. And basically that is, I cannot stress that enough. Like if you want to close with confidence, if you want to just be an absolute, wrecking ball when it comes to locking down the deal and avoiding delays, you have to have all three of these things. So this is in the document. If somebody can repaste it in case anybody joined late. I know it is not available to people when they close. So this is all, when they join late. So that's our checklist, right? We need to make sure they're ready to move into the close. This is subconscious. This is in the back of my mind. It is not in the back of your mind. And so I would literally encourage you to print this out and have this checklist in front of you and know that the discovery phase is not over until you've checked all these things off. In fact, it's actually discovery plus the advisement phase, right? As you walk them through the solution, you're basically showing them how to do what they want to do. And then it's time to close. And then you're going to be bulletproof when you go to closing. So any questions so far? Anything's come in, Kristen? Any questions you have?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in that back and forth, we were focused on maintenance, right? That was Sasha's biggest concern was around maintenance. And you said one word in there, and that was discipline, right? The discipline to stay in the discovery part there about maintenance. Now, I know we're doing like a shorter part of the call. If this was an actual long discovery call, would you have started talking to Sasha about the other elements of like management? Would you have talked about what potential like tenant placement would cost, like what that would charge and anything else like that? Or would you just stay strictly within what Sasha is concerned about?
Great question, Kristen. I would try to close and try to move forward once I felt like I had solved the one question you brought up. Now I would be checking in with you repeatedly and saying, is there anything else, any things you have questions about? Is there anything else you want to know about? But I would not feel the need to explain to you our screening strategy, like our tenant screening. I wouldn't explain to you our marketing systems. I would have just answered the question, and then I would start asking for the business in a very compelling way.
Okay. I like that because it's the discipline. Like that's the word I hope everybody's taking from that is the discipline, because I think we want to tell all the cool things. We want to go off about everything else, but staying in that zone of what is important to the prospect.
Agreed. Great point. Okay. So at some point, I've done my discovery, made a recommendation to you. I've been watching the checklist, and you've admitted that you have a problem that you want to fix or a different outcome that you don't have. I've shown you how we can do that. You've agreed that you understand. You haven't said I want to do it, but you've agreed that makes a lot of sense. I can see how you've helped other people do that before. Now it's time to close. Okay. So I'm going to walk through our closing framework at a high level, Kristen, and then I'm going to invite Sasha back up to hear how I would use the closing framework.
Okay.
All right, get in character. In the meantime, share with you guys kind of the overall closing framework. Sorry about that. It's all in the document here. Where did I share my screen? It's because I made you the presenter. Interesting. I lost my share of my screen for some reason.
You lost the ability to do it?
Oh, there it is. Sorry. I thought I lost my share my screen thing. Sorry. New to Zoom. My apologies. I've only been using it for 8 years. So here is our closing framework, right? So we talked about the outline of the effective sales call. We know we're going to get status alignment, and then we're going to move into discovery, and then we're going to start advising, and then we're going to start asking for a commitment. We showed you the pre-checklist for closing. And so now let's look at the actual closing framework, which works really well. So when we're going to ask for the business, we are not going to take this lightly. We are not going to just basically say, sounds like this is a no-brainer. You should be doing business from us. We are going to recap, and we are going to create an airtight, logical argument that the customer almost can't say no to. And or as we make that argument, we are going to snuff out what else they need to know from us to actually do that. So the closer framework is an actual acronym, CLOSER. Known it for a long time. I did not make this up, although I've refined it for us in a really effective way, I believe. And so here is the closer framework. So when I move into closing Sasha, I'm going to confirm why we're speaking today. I'm just going to let that set in for a second. I think that too often we don't remind the client why they reached out, what they've told us. We don't actually just confirm, okay, so Sasha, it sounds like self-maintenance has really been holding you back. I am going to label the prospect situation. I know Kristen does not like to be labeled, but this is one of the ways that we can signal our expertise to a client is we can actually label their problem in a very deliberate way that shows that we've seen this problem before and we know it better than they know it, right? So they think they're so different. Every prospect thinks, you've never met a prospect like me. My situation's different. When we label their problem, we're showing them that we understand their problem, that we've seen it before, and we know a way out, okay? So I'll confirm why we're speaking. I'll label Sasha's problem. Then I'll outline what got her here. I'll talk about why, she's on the phone with us, what she's tried before. She has maxed out at 2 properties. She's been an amazing self-manager, but it's clear to both her and to me that 2 properties are her max within her comfort zone. So I'm going to outline what got them there. And then once I've said all those things, I'm going to reiterate the outcome and the benefit that I'm going to do. I am going to sell the exact solution that we offer in a very high level way. I'm not going to fire up my slide deck. I'm not going to walk through 19 slides. I'm going to basically very succinctly remind her what we do and who we do it for and why this is such a great solution for Sasha. Then I'm going to pre-frame and handle any objections that I think she might have. So if I've done my due diligence and I've spent enough time in discovery and I've been selling long enough, I probably know what the objections I'm going to get are, right? You guys ever experience that? You ever make an ask and you're like, oh, they're going to ask about this, right? So why not handle those? Why not pre-handle those? Not every single one, but if you really know, and we've got some information in the workbook about this, if you really know what they're going to bring up and you've heard it before, why wouldn't you pre-handle it? And then we're simply going to, which brings us full circle, 180 degrees, the beginning of the call, we're going to request action. Sasha, is there any reason why you wouldn't want us to manage your properties? Sasha, can you understand how us managing your properties is going to free you up and make you a more successful real estate investor? I'm simply going to request action in a very logical way because I've gone through the entire closing network. That's different than any questions. What do you think? So where do we go from here? This is the way I hear some of you guys close, right? We are going to make an airtight, logical case, and then we're going to basically request action from the client. Make sense? You with me so far on this, Sasha? All right. So in your closer workbook, I've actually got some examples. I may or may not use these. I may try to fumble through and use these on Sasha. I may improvise, doesn't matter. But I tried to give you guys lots of different examples. So Sasha, you ready to go? Taylor, are you ready to observe again?
I'm ready.
Ready.
Okay, love it. All right. All right, so don't be a pushover. Let's try to go through this, but let's be Sasha. So Sasha, I'm really excited you called. I just want to confirm what I'm understanding as I make this recommendation to you is that you've basically kind of tapped out at managing 2 properties. And if you want to get to the 8 properties, you're going to need some kind of professional help to manage the properties. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So, and you know, just again, I know I'm hearing from you that you are a very experienced property manager. You know exactly what you're doing. You simply are at your ceiling and you're ready to, you know, kind of bust through that ceiling and you're hoping we can help you. Is that correct?
Yes, that sounds right.
Okay. And as you said, nobody can do this better than you. So we talked about it. I'm making no claims that we're going to do everything better than Sasha can. I just know that we're going to help you maximize your opportunity, and we're going to help you do more than you can do today. And so I think you've done a great job. It sounds like you've got great tenants in place. You've got 2 great properties. I cannot wait to help you go to the next level. And I really appreciate that about you. So here's how we can do that, Sasha. Here's what we do. So here at Mango Tree Property Management, we help investors just like you maximize their investing returns while enjoying a hands-off experience and using our years of experience to protect you from risk. Now, we only charge 10%, as I mentioned before, of the monthly rent, and we only get paid when you do. So you keep the majority of the income while we do all the work. Does that sound like what you're looking for, Sasha?
That sounds kind of expensive. So you're going to take 10% of my rent, but if my rent goes up, then you make more money. That doesn't seem like a very fair deal, because just because my rent's going up, you make more money, but you're doing the same work. And that just seems like a lot.
Glad you asked that, Sasha. Our interests are aligned. You're right. If we do a great job and we attract the right tenants and they stay and we reduce your vacancy and we aggressively manage rental rates and we keep in line with the market and we raise rent, as you know, in South Florida here, it's just crazy right now. We've seen so many self-managers come to us and they're 10, 20, 30% under market rental rate. This is correct. We do help you make more money from the property. And we get a very small portion of that, a sliver, if I, would say so myself. But I would say this, Sasha, if you're going to hire any professional manager, whether it's us at Mango Tree or somebody else, I hope that you would understand that your value is based on the money you make over time. We need to make you more money versus whatever transactional charges we take to be able to do that service. And so much like we talked about before about our vendors, bringing you access to a better vendor pool that will cost you less, that will do the work better, that will maintain your asset. I know, and I've seen it for our clients, that we will A, reduce your vacancy, B, make sure that you get the maximum rent, and C, we will maintain your asset as it increases, like all South Florida homes are over time. So if you're looking at us as an expense, then I just want to make sure that you're rethinking all of the things that we're doing for you and all of the money we're going to make you as you go out and build your portfolio, so that you don't think that we're just somebody taking some portion of the rent for doing nothing. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. But there's something that you said in there, and that was transactional charges. And that, to me, that seems like you're taking more. So there's the 10% that you charge monthly. And then I know that we've been talking about maintenance, and I know that I have a couple of friends who work with property managers, and they're upcharging them for every time they send someone out there. So you're charging me 10% each month, then you're charging me 10% more for somebody to go out there. This is just really starting to feel like I'm being charged a lot of money. And now I'm starting to wonder, is it really worth my money to keep doing this? And is my time, can I just keep doing it on my own? Because I don't know, it's just starting to add up, Jeremy.
Yeah, I appreciate the candor and the concerns. And so again, we as we talked about, Sasha's been doing everything up until this point. And so clearly nobody else, like there's no fees, there's nobody else, like you're basically keeping all the money. But what I also learned was you kind of are up against a ceiling. And so, yes, my team and our staff will need to be compensated for the amazing service they do. I actually think if you buy no more property, Sasha, you'll actually make more money by working with us because of all the things we've talked about today. But that's really not what we were talking about, or why I think you called us. I think you called us because you want to go from a 2-property portfolio to an 8-property portfolio. And I know that we're going to allow you to do that and make more money in the long run. So obviously at the end of the day, we've got an amazing team. We've got the best software you've ever seen. We've got the best real estate attorney in Southwest Florida that we work with to do the leases for you. So we haven't even talked about all the incremental costs you might run into, like attorney's fees and getting the lease renewals and marketing fees, all of which we are going to absorb as part of our fees. But again, the original reason that you and I are talking is because you want to go from a 2-home portfolio to an 8-property portfolio. And I know we can do that for you. So having said that, you have to build a team on your own, Sasha. And if you've got a bunch of vendors and maintenance people ready to go, that's one idea. Or you can just hire Mango Tree and you can use our experience and we can do it for you.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand now.
So I appreciate you asking, because I want you to trust us. This is a business partnership. Based on what I said today, is there any reason you wouldn't want us managing your properties?
No, I mean, Jeremy, you seem like you got a handle on everything. You're very knowledgeable and I really appreciate your time, but I really think that I just need to think about it. There's just, I think, a lot of moving parts here and you've given me a lot of really great information, but I think I just need to think on it. It's a big decision.
Okay, so let's pause there and let's come back to that. So I'm getting a delay, which I appreciate. So let's talk about if I request action and I either have one of 2 other R's. I can either reinforce their decision if she goes forward, or I can give her a reality check if she is not ready to go forward. Before I do that, Taylor, give us the play-by-play. What did you hear? What did you hear and take away from that
practice? Perfect. Yes. So clearly Jeremy went through the closure framework, absolutely confirmed why they were speaking, relabeled her situation, and then outlined what got them there. So kind of the discovery that they had done back and forth, their banter, and then began to sell on the solution. Of course, when Sasha brought forward a concern or an objection, if you will, Jeremy went back to selling the solution to try and ease her concerns, and then went in to ask questions. My biggest takeaway is even throughout the entire process, it was always a conversation. Jeremy never talked at Sasha. He continued to, go back and forth, confirm that they were on the same page, that made sense. And to attempt to ease her concerns, he also did a soft-ish close at the end and then reiterated the close one more time before letting her get away.
Great job, Taylor. I think we called on the right volunteer, Kristen. That was good stuff. Kristen, anything you want to add before we push forward? Anything you took away?
No, I took away that you kept it, even though I would say no, or I threw a really big objection at you. And I think Melissa pointed that out of, whoa, this is all starting to add up. And that's scary as the salesperson, because you're getting close to the close and you're like, oh crap, I lost her. Because I wonder how many of you guys felt anxiety whenever I threw that objection of like, oh, that's hard. And so I liked how you just turned it back around of like, reminded me of the goals. I felt like that was really big. You kept reminding me of where I wanted to be at and not just solving my pain point of, yes, it is a charge, right? You acknowledge like, yes, it's a charge. We want to pay our staff fairly, I think is what you said, or we want to pay our staff, but remember, Sasha, where you want to be. You want to be at 8 properties. And I thought that was really great, because I think a lot of us get stuck in trying to explain and like, we'll just end up word vomiting of like our value instead of, no, okay, we're going to acknowledge it. Yeah, we charge you something. And then now we're going to elevate to goals. Yeah. I agree with that, Taylor. Taylor said, sometimes I think as salespeople, we get anxious, maybe even frustrated when our leads still don't get it. Yeah.
Definitely. So one thing I want to point out that I'm aware of, but I didn't plan to share, but I think is so important is I never disagreed with Sasha, right? Sasha brought up stuff and I said, oh yes, yeah, I've heard that before. Oh, totally see why you're asking that question. You know what, you're right. We're not going to do it as good as you are, right? But we're managing 300 and something properties, not 2 properties. So that expectation is unrealistic, right? So I never disagreed with you. I constantly leaned in to what you were saying, and then I added info. And I think that this is not an objection handling webinar, but that's part of closing is handling objections, right? So it's worth bringing up. And as this, I didn't know where Sasha was going to go with this, but we, at some point, part of the framework I want you guys to understand is sometimes it's linear and sometimes you literally need to go back to the beginning. So maybe Sasha would have came up with some crazy thing and she's just like, this is crazy. Like, I cannot believe that you guys take 10% of the rent, right? I may have to go back to the beginning and say, okay, let me just confirm why you called in, and I'll just start right from the beginning. And I'll just literally, and I'll use different language, but I feel like I got to go back to the beginning and I've got to restart the closer framework because I have no business trying to close Sasha because she's so far away from the destination that I can't even do it. And so I can just go back. So now as we wrapped up, Sasha, you gave me, this is a lot. I need to think about, what was it that you said?
It's just a big change and it's a lot for me to think about. And I think I just need some time to think.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I would think about this as well.
Are we back?
Yeah, we are.
Okay,
We
I'm
are.
ready.
So Sasha, I would think about this as well. You've been self-managing for how long?
For about 2.5 years now.
Yeah, for 2.5 years. You've done really well. I don't think there's anything I'm going to say on one 18-minute call that's going to completely change your mind. But I do know we can help you. And I know we've helped people just like you in the same situation. So I'm going to clarify. This is Jeremy speaking, not like Mango Tree Property Management. I need to know exactly where her head is and what the real objection is. She hasn't told me. She just said she wants to think about it. Okay. So back to scene. So, Sasha, I want to keep the dialogue going. If that means we need to meet at another point, that's totally fine. If I need to send you anything, but just let me ask you, since we're having such a good conversation, what is it that you want to think about exactly? I mean, what is it that I've said today that's a little bit intimidating to you or not necessarily what you were hoping to hear when you called in?
I think that really, the money and spending now money on management, the 10% charge or fee that's going to come out each month. I just want to make sure that me paying that is not going to prevent me from expanding my portfolio, that I'm not missing out on like income there. And so I think I just want to check to make sure that if I go with a management company, it's not going to mess up my ability to expand and hit that goal of the 8 properties.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And it makes a lot of sense because you've never worked with a manager before. And again, I'm sensing that you still think what we're charging you is an expense and not making you more money, which is fine because you've never had it before. But I can tell you that if you reached out to some of our clients, they would let you know that they're making more money than ever by working with a professional manager and they're able to grow their portfolio. So I want you to be comfortable with that. Is there anything I can show you, anything you need from me to get your head wrapped around that? Or is it just truly you need to marinate on it and get comfortable with it because it's such a big change?
Jeremy, it seems like you have an answer for everything and you have a solution for all of my issues. So I think I just want to be honest with you. I'm just nervous. It comes down to, I'm nervous and afraid that this is a big step. And if I go over to a property manager, it's just a lot of change for my tenants, a lot of change for me. And so it's something that really is just a big step that I'd have to take. And again, it's not just me I have to think about, but the 2 families that I'm providing housing for, is this going to be a good change for them as well?
I really appreciate that you are concerned about that. Obviously, not only are you investing for your own future, but you're providing housing for these two amazing families. And I love that you take that so seriously. So I did hear that you were local, that you live, close to Boca. So perhaps, actually coming in the office and getting together would be the confidence builder that you might need to feel comfortable handing it over. As far as the tenants that you're leasing to, I love that you're so concerned about that. One thing I do want to just say, kind of closing arguments as we wrap this up, Sasha, is we've taken over a lot of self-managing tenants, and what we find is they're really happy with the consistency. They're really happy with the systems. Now they're not trying to track down Sasha, who's out trying to close a deal or just happened to, go on vacation with her family for the holidays. They've got an office, a hotline they can call into. They have processes and procedures that we can fix. So I actually think that the winners here will not only be you, but it'll actually be your tenants. So having said that, perhaps the next best step is just getting together and seeing if this is a good fit for you. Would you be willing to move on to that step?
Yes, I think that it would be great to meet, come to your office, get to kind of understand your company, who would be managing my properties. And I think that that's really what I would need to be able to move forward.
You are going to love Pam. I have a feeling Pam's going to manage your properties. She's been managing for us for 9 years. She is absolutely the most pleasant person I've ever dealt with. And when you come in, I want to make sure you know the actual people that are going to be dealing with everything. So let's get it on the books. You want to get together this week?
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay. All right. So scene, Taylor, what did you take away from the close?
Oh gosh, I think you did a great job of reinforcing their decision and requesting the sale, but also making sure they're on the same page. And I think really pointing it to home of like pain points of, if you're on vacation with your family, or like potentials of what she could miss out on, like not getting to close on another deal, because, those were her pain points. And when you reiterate it that way, it really, how could you say no? I mean, I want to go on vacation.
Thank you, Taylor. Yes. So I think we're full circle on what I said. Is there any reason you wouldn't hire us? Are you ready to join the Mango Tree Property Management family? If you guys are listening in, chat us. Do you feel like I could have closed with that confident and convenient, or say easy way that I showed you in the very beginning? So that's the whole idea. If I know that's where I'm trying to get, if I know that's the destination, and I'm managing the discovery call and the advisement and the objection handling in the right way, it should be that easy to ask for the business. It should just be like, I want Sasha to be like, I can't say no, Jeremy, because like, this is so obvious. Like, it's so much. So she did let me know that she was very uncomfortable. This was a lot of change. And so I didn't close her, but I got the next step, right? I got the commitment to getting together. So how did that feel, Kristen? How did Sasha feel about the close?
Well, she let me know. I'm just kidding. I felt like it was very natural conversation. Like Taylor said in her observations, it was just a conversation back and forth. And so it didn't feel like you were trying to force me into doing something or trying to pigeonhole me into a corner of like, hey, this is what you got to do. This is the best option. Like, it didn't feel like you were selling me. It really felt like you were listening into what I was saying, trying to understand where I was coming from, and then giving the best solution forward. And I think that it's great that you stopped trying to like close for the business, and you realized, because it took an entire conversation that probably would have been like a 30-minute conversation. And it took until the last 3 minutes for you to get down to the true motivation or the true fear of what's happening with your prospect. And so I think that was, you took the time to do discovery. You went back to it when it was needed, and then went in for what was the next best thing for the prospect, not just what was the next best thing for you as the salesperson.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Closing sometimes is just about commitment, right? It's not actually about winning the business, winning the deal. Not everybody's going to close on the first call. So Kristen had 2 properties. She let me know that there were tenants in there. So I didn't even bother with trying to schedule an on-site consultation or getting together, or like running the numbers. I was ready to ask for the business. And I went into the closing framework that you guys saw. And if you saw the document and we're not on this call, you might think this was going to take 30 minutes. But because I did the research up front, I did this in like 4 minutes, maybe 5. I mean, didn't it seem fast, Kristen? Like I did all these things very quickly, correct?
Yes, you did, even with objections being thrown in there.
Yes. So I wasn't about to ask for the business without confirming why we were talking, labeling you, understand labeling can feel like very judgmental, but it's basically like demonstrating expertise. I've seen this before. I know what you're going through. I can put it into language, outline how we got here. I even, admitted that there was no way that we were going to manage the properties as good as Sasha. Like I was pre-framing an objection before I even got to that, because there's no way that we're going to manage 2 properties the way she did when we're managing 350 properties. And I actually conceded that, but I said it's about being, about playing at the macro level and getting to that 8, portfolio, that 8 property level. I sold them on the solution. What is it that Mango Tree Property Management does at a very high level? I didn't even have to explain the concerns because she jumped right in and objected to the 10%. And I got to use that. If she wasn't responding, I would have, you'll see in the document, I would have basically used the discovery process to understand what she might object to. And I would have pre-framed it without being too wordy. And then I requested action. I requested action in a very casual way, but a very clear way, not like in a, what do you think? So what's next? I didn't say anything like that. So you ready to join the family, or is there any reason why we shouldn't be managing your properties? I made a very specific ask, but I made it with tons of confidence and tons of certainty because I had done the work and I had gone through the framework. And I only started the framework when 1, I did the right discovery. And then 2, I had the pre-close checklist going on in the back of my mind. So this is how I sell. This is how I've sold for years. This is how we're trying to teach you guys how to sell. If you go back and look at your playbook, this is how your playbook is written. It shows a lot of confidence and a lot of expertise. We teach selling as a trusted advisor here, guys, and that's what's most important. So now, last thing I'll share when Sasha kind of pushed back is when you request action, they're either going to say yes, and you want to reinforce. We got 2 more R's. We want to reinforce their decision and basically let them know, hey, you're joining an elite family of investors here in South Florida. I'm so excited that you're coming on board. Or I know when we get together and you meet the team, and especially Pam, you're going to love who's going to be managing your property and who you're going to be dealing with. I'm going to reinforce that decision. Or B, I'm going to do a reality check. I'm going to go back to the model. I'm going to say, okay, well, you called me because you have X, Y, and Z. This is what I heard today. And if you continue to self-manage, I don't think anything is going to change. I'm not going to make Sasha feel necessarily bad about it, but I'm going to give her a reality check and see if she disagrees with it. And I think that the reality check is the best follow-up. When people start ghosting you, you can send emails like, hey, are you still trying to build your portfolio? You're still trying to reach that 8 property level. Are you still trying to do more to make more money in real estate investing while spending less of your time so that you can enjoy life and go on vacation and do all the things we talked about? Those are reality checks. And that's what I would do only because I got that intel from Sasha. And I got that intel by working really hard on the discovery standpoint. So the last thing is gaining commitment, right? I was very happy just to get her to commit to coming into the office. I realized this was not a one close call, and I still felt like I closed Sasha, not because I didn't get the agreement, but because I got commitment to come in the office. I know that that's the best next step that's going to close her. So gaining commitment is really the difference. You guys have heard me say this a million times between being in customer service and being in sales. And you're in customer service, you hope there's no next step. You hope there's no callback. I just want to solve your problem and I never want to talk to you again. When you're in sales, it's always about having a next step. Even after they sign the paper, that next step will be checking in to make sure that they're successful, they're happy, seeing if they have any referrals, seeing if they want to buy any more properties. It's all about getting that next step. So we talk about that all the time. So important. So questions, concerns? Is everybody going to be a bulletproof closer tomorrow? Is there any reason why you guys don't have all of the knowledge to go out and do this yourself tomorrow? Thank you, by the way, Taylor, for being our voluntold person to give us feedback. You did great today.
Oh, I like this. Monica said bulletproof closer tonight. This has been very good info. You go get that. Oh,
Yes.
I love it. And Susan, yeah, I would say you probably are a pretty experienced closer, but I love that you still learned a lot, because I think 91% of you guys said that you were great closers. And even the best people have coaches and can learn those small little tips and tricks to get better.
Love all the feedback. Got it. Good stuff. Guys, you know this set in. You know this is working if you find yourself closing business on phrases like this. If you find yourself saying something so, you know, Tom Cruise casual as, is there any reason you wouldn't want us managing your properties? And they say, nope, I'm in. Now you know that it worked, right? I want you guys to be closing, and I want you guys to be love closing, which was the original idea of this webinar. And I want it to feel fun and almost carefree, but that only happens if we put in the work in the beginning, right? And so that's really the takeaway today. So to put a whole mirror image on this entire webinar, what's the ideal closed any sale? It's always the logical self-conclusion by the prospect. They just almost cannot say no because it's so logical and it's so obvious to them. And then they got to go forward. But that does not happen by accident. That happens by work, like we're talking about today. So we went over the outline of an effective sales call. Remember, it's discovery and it's status alignment, and then discovery, and then advisement, and then commitment. We talked about the pre-checklist for closing. Have we gotten them to admit that there's a destination they're trying to reach, whether it's a problem they're trying to solve, or that is a better future that they would like to accomplish? Have we shown them how to get there, and we ask for their buy-in? We showed the closing framework, closer, right? It's an acronym. You guys have the document, and then it's all about getting that commitment. Even if it's not saying yes and signing an agreement today, it's about never hanging up that phone without a commitment for a next step. Quick overview. We sent out a video. This is a little bit of a bonus, but there's 7 reasons you're not closing sales the way you want to. Number 1, it's a lack of confidence in your authority, which is why we talk about status alignment. You got to be ready to advise. I was not letting Sasha talk me out of property management service, even though I agreed that there's no way we're going to manage her properties better than she does, right? But I had no lack of confidence in my authority because I know we've done it for so many people. I had no lack of conviction or belief. I believe that we were exactly what Sasha needed to go to the next level. And so I was convinced, and therefore I was ready to move into the close because I know she's going to thank me and probably introduce me to 6 of her friends when she experiences what we do. Number 3, you're not closing if you're presenting too much info. I love that Kristen asked me, would you have told me about all your screening and everything else? And I said, no, because you had a really clear problem. And I just focused on that. And that's all I talked about. So if you're having a hard time closing, you may be overwhelming and drowning your prospect in too much information. Number 4, you're not listening for the right things, right? All we care about is their desired outcomes, and their desired outcomes fall into 2 categories. Number 1, it's a problem they're trying to solve, or number 2, it's a better future they're trying to reach. So we need to be able to discover and be comfortable asking as many questions as we want or need to ask because we know what we're working towards. Number 4, we're unsure of when to close or how. Clearly, you guys have been through the Black Belt Master Level Learn to Love Closing webinar today. So that is not your problem, right? You know what you're looking for, you know when things click, and you know when it's time to move forward. Or 6, you don't want to be pushy. I hope nobody felt like I was very pushy with Sasha on this call. I was very in control. I was very intentional. I was passionate, and I don't feel like I was ever pushy. So don't confuse closing with being pushy. And last but not least, you can't be afraid to avoid conflict and confrontation. So if Sasha would have been telling me that she wanted to grow her portfolio, but then she would have basically said, no, this is all crazy, and maybe this is over my head and I don't want to do this, I would have stepped in and helped her. I would have confronted Sasha and had a reality check about, you're telling me X. I've helped 15 people just like you go from S to X. And I think we can help you do that. And here's how. And I would have not been afraid to confront her, because I would have, if I confronted Sasha and she got offended and I lost the business, I would actually end up with exactly as much business as I had before I confronted Sasha. I would have lost 100% of the business I didn't have. So I would not be afraid to go in and say something with conviction, because I have done the work and I know I'm making the right recommendation for Sasha. So those are my thoughts, guys. This works. I love selling because I sell this way. My sales team tells me that it's very natural, and they can't believe sometimes when I ask questions like, so is there any reason why you wouldn't hire us? And they say, no, I've got no answer. But it's not because I'm saying it. It's because I've done the work up front. It's because I have led the call. I've begun with the end in mind, and I've said all the right things, and I've basically led them to a logical conclusion. And then I almost get to make it like a joke that they're going to buy from us, and they love it. That's how I want you guys selling. Any parting thoughts, Sasha or Kristen?
Yes, I am back to being Kristen now, but no, you covered it. Confidence is the key, and having the discipline. Like I think Jen said earlier, the word of the day is discipline, because it's having the discipline to not word vomit all over your prospects, because it's sharing too much information and you're not speaking to what they actually care about, and it'll detract from you being able to close them. So be disciplined and just have a conversation. I love that Taylor said that, I think 3 times, right? It's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. And that's really the key, is having a conversation, listening for those pain points, and then being disciplined to not word vomit all over everyone.
Yeah, I will say this. If sales is not fun for you guys, RentScale is not doing our job. Like, we need you guys to be effective, and we need you to love it and just have a ton of fun, because it can be. Obviously, anything that's worth doing takes some effort. There's going to be days you don't feel like it. We're going to ask you to go out, get out of your comfort zone. We're going to ask you to interrupt people. We're going to ask you to challenge people. But when it really comes down to the sales conversation, like we covered today, this is your chance to just have a lot of fun and just influence and help and consult. And that's the way it should feel. Absolutely.
So with this formula that Jeremy taught you, not just the closer, but you added 2 extra R's. So it's the closer. That's what it is. But does anybody can you guys share your goals for the month of February? Because now that you guys know how to close, I want you guys to put into the chat how many doors you're going to call your shot right now of what you're going to end up with in February. You guys are feverishly typing in. I can feel it. Doors, 2. Awesome, Eric. That's a great goal. At least 14, Taylor. That's amazing. And then I think Renee will have the other 14 for you, Taylor. So that'd be 28. 15 for Kelly Parker. Mariella, 10. 1 bazillion. Oh my gosh, who is this? Superstar top performer, Jeremy Pound. Oh my gosh. Chris said, my alter ego will bring in 20. Yeah, Chris, get an alter ego like Sasha Jones. You just go out there and get them. That's awesome. These are some great goals. And I feel like if you guys use your closer formula and go back, you guys no doubt will hit all of these goals and exceed them.
Kristen and Sasha, thank you for being such a great participant today. Taylor, thank you. You gave great feedback, and I appreciate you letting us put you on the spot. Thanks to everybody that showed up. We've got this recording we'll send out. We've got the workbook. Maybe we can just drop in that workbook one more time if anybody, I think I have it copied right there in case anybody joined late. That's our gift to you guys. I think there is a ton of gold in that workbook. We want to hear from you guys as you do this. What did we miss out on? What are the other ways that you guys are going to confirm why we're talking to our prospect, label their problem, outline what they've tried to do and why they haven't been successful so far, sell them on our solution, explain away their objections, and request action. It's really what it's all about. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys. Oh, Susan, I see your message there. If you can email me, yes, I will send you another sales planner. If you just send me an email with your address, I'll send it to you. I'll send you another one. I didn't want to hop off without telling you that. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Take care, guys.